Dear students, a very good morning to all of you. Today's topic is environmental management and sustainable development. And today we will see how this uh, land information system can be used for environmental management and sustainable development. In today's topic, in today's lecture, we will cover different topics. Like first, we will discuss the pressure on the resources, then what are the causes and effects of environmental degradation, in which we will discuss deforestation, desertification, pollutions, acid rain, global warming, and then we can have different approaches that can be used to manage the resources and environment. So today's topic is very important as all over the world the climate change is going on. Most of the natural resources are at higher risk. So the environmental management and sustainable development is a need of today's time, and we have to work for the management of the natural resources so that we can work, we can have the sustainable development, and it will be very much useful for maintaining the natural environment of the earth. So before starting, first I would like to start with what are the pressure on the resources. Okay, as we all know that there are different kinds of pressures on natural resources in terms of deforestation, then supply of fresh water, over pollution, ozone layer, oil, nuclear waste, growth of deserts. Desertification is also a problem which is also causing a pressure on earth surface. Then fertilization, water pollution. Also there is a problem of acid rain, waste disposition, greenhouse gas effects is also an important factor in terms of climate change, or greenhouse gases are also affecting the air pollution or air quality and transportation of the people and goods. So the environmental degradation refers to the destruction of the physical environment due to human activities, due to different kinds of anthropogenic activities. And because of this anthropogenic activities, we are having high pressure, we are putting high pressure on the natural resources, or you can say the earth surface, so that it will be at the risk. And for that we need to work on environmental management and sustainable development. So now what are the factors which is responsible for environmental degradation? So there are several factors that is causing the degradation to the environment. Our environmental condition is degrading day by day, and different factors are responsible for such degradation. First one is social factors. Okay, social factors are an important role in the environmental degradation. It is first, it is having the growth of the world population. As we know that the world population is growing day by day, especially in developing countries. Okay, and because of the rapid population, the urbanization is very fast. The impervious surfaces are increasing day by day, so it is also having negative impact on the environment, so that environmental quality is degrading. And also there is increasing affluences, like more demand for goods, more resources are extracted. Okay, if we are having more population, so the more population requires more goods, more resources, so that is causing extra pressure on the natural resources. We are extracting more resources for the need, for the need to the highly populated area, for the need of the increased population on the earth surface. Okay, so this is the social factor. Overpopulation is a important role, it is having important role in the you can say environmental degradation. It's a important part of social degradation. The earth's carrying the capacity is under increasing stress from its sheer number of inhabitants. So nearly 80 million people are added to the world population every year, and this is putting additional stress, additional pressure on the natural resources on the earth. By 2025 the world population will elevate up to 8.6 billion, with the largest impact felt in the urban centers of the developing countries. So the combined pressure of the population growth and massive poverty will weigh heavily on the steeper world potential. Okay, so overpopulation is one of the important parameter, one of the important factor behind the environmental degradation. Now moving to the next slide. Second kind of second kind of factors which is responsible for environmental degradation is economic factors. Okay, So economic factor is also having important role in the environmental degradation because of the economic development, because of the rapid economic development, economic growth that leads to the increased amount of resources used. So increased mining and logging activities are because of the economic development. Deforestation is there. Deforestation is occurring at a fast rate. Okay. So how do you value a forest? So think of the it is uh, here that the forest provides us the oxygen, shelter, shade, soil, nutrients, different wildlife habitats are there. Okay, anti-erosion barriers are provided by the forest, wind breaks, timber for the construction, fuel for the healthy and cooking, carbon dioxide sink, not to maintain the beauty. Okay, so rainforest destruction, the destruction to the forest is currently estimated at 78 million acres per year. It is an area larger than the Poland. So this high rate of deforestation translates to about 214,000 acres per day, or an area larger than the New York City. Okay, so learning to this respect the value of these vital forest resources is an important life lesson for the future generation. Okay, deforestation is a important economic factor that is responsible for the environmental degradation. There is a high rate of deforestation around the world, and as we know that forest provides us different kinds of resources in terms of oxygen, wildlife habitat, different shelter, shade, soil nutrients. Okay, it can also be used for fuel, and it can also work as a sink for carbon dioxide. So the forest cover in the world are at the threat because of the rapid deforestation, the rate of the rapid deforestation. Okay, but there are also some technological factors which is responsible for the environmental degradation. So in the modern era of technological development, in the modern era of digitalization of the world, okay, so there are several technological factors which is responsible for the environmental degradation. The modern day comforts that we enjoy, okay, harnessing the fossil fuels to generate the electricity and power vehicles. Okay, so because of these technological factors, they are impacting the fossil fuels, and they are having negative impact on the air pollution, or you can say the air quality is degrading day by day. Okay, because of the burning of fossil fuels, the amount or the concentration of carbon dioxide is increasing day by day, so it is degrading the air quality that causes the air pollution. So technological factors are also having important role in environmental degradation because of the rapid development, because of the uh, modern day comforts that we enjoy, that are because of the technological factors. Although it is beneficial for the human life, for the human being, but there is also having negative impacts of the technological factors on the environment, or you can say the quality of the environment. Okay, political factors are also there. Different governments enforce the laws to protect the environment. Okay, and large number of corporates, large number of companies are able to influence the government decisions. For an example, an MNC may threaten to pull out of a country if it is prevented from the logging. Okay, so political willpower is required to prevent the environment. If there is a policy, so government should implement the policy strictly, without any influence from the corporate sector, without any influence from the businessman, because it is seen that in the past that most of the policies of the government is being influenced by different corporate sectors, different companies, different businessmen. They modify the rules and regulations as per their requirement. So there is also political factors which is responsible for the environmental degradation, and government should work strictly on implementing the rules and regulations to protect the environment. Okay, so now we are going to discuss about the causes of the environmental degradation. Till now, we have discussed different factors responsible for environmental degradation. Now we are going to see what are the causes of environmental degradation in detail. So deforestation, desertification, pollution, acid rain, global warming. These are some major factors which can cause the environmental degradation. I will discuss one by one. First, what is the impact of environmental degradation on the world, on the earth? It can cause the climate change. There may be decreased food production, and there may be the reduction in the biological diversity. There may be some health problems. Some population or the people will have some health problems because of the environmental degradation. There may be some damaged property, and there may be some economic costs. So these are some impacts of the environmental degradation. So global climate change, the climate change word is very common nowadays. Most of you heard this word climate change many times. Okay, so what is the global climate change? How you can define there's a climate change, or you can say what are the signs, what are the symbols that can be considered as the climate change. So rise in a sea water level. Okay, rise in a sea water level is also a sign of climate change. It can cause the flooding in the low lying coastal areas. There may be the rise in the temperature that will increase the evaporation rate. Okay, and wet areas that will have more rain, that you call it as a El Nino effect. And there may be some drier areas that can be caused by the droughts. Okay, so because of the global climate change, the earth is facing different kinds of problems in terms of flooding, in terms of rise in the temperature that can cause the increased evaporation rate, there may be more rains, that is effect of El Nino, and there may be droughts, desertification, that are also factors which is provide or which is done by the global climate change. So moving to the next slide. So what is the decreased food production? Okay, so the decreased food production means the growth, or you can say that because of the rapid population, because of the rapid growth, the arable land is now converting into some land use, some urban area. So that may affect the growth of the important crops such as rice, wheat, corn. Okay, the higher temperature encourages the growth of the weeds and the pests, and that may be decreased in the food production. Desertification and deforestation decreases the amount of arable land, and the crop yield cannot keep up with the population growth. Famine and the death could result. So these are some factors, these are some effects of the decreased food production. Reduced biological diversity, that may consider as a changes in the temperature. Then human actions such as deforestation, that can have the impact on the plants and the animals that may die, that may lead to the extinction, and the plants with the valuable medicinal properties lost before they are discovered. So there is also the reduction of biological diversity because of the environmental degradation. Health problems may also be there. The human population may face some health problems in developing countries, like poor sanitary conditions, contaminated water resources are affecting the human health because of the poor quality water, because of the poor quality of the airs. Okay, the emission from the industries and the vehicles can cause the poor air quality, that can leading to the health problem like asthma, cancer. Okay, and also there is increased ultraviolet rays that maybe increases the incidences of skin cancer, eye contract, and damage to the plant life. So these are some issues that may be because of the environmental degradation. They are directly affecting the human health, they are directly affecting the life on the earth in terms of you can say different uh, diseases or skin cancer. There may be some eye contract and damage to the plant life. So health problems are also because of their environmental degradation of the earth. Okay, damaged property because of the acid rain. Okay, there may be the increased pollution level in the atmosphere because of the high concentration of carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide, which is hazardous gases, which is poisonous gases. If the concentration of these poisonous gases will increase in the atmosphere, so that can lead to the acid rain. Okay, that may be leaching of the minerals, damage to the vegetation. That may also have impact on the wildlife and damage to the buildings. Okay, and also the rise in the sea level causing the low-lying coastal cities that is affected by the flooding. that may damaged these properties, or the damaged property, this is the important factor. This is because of the environmental degradation. Okay, so also moving to the economic cost, the money has to be spent to solve these environmental problems. The money can be used to develop the country, and ironically at the expense of the environment. Okay, so economic cost is also there because of the rapid population growth. Obviously there is increased economic activities. Okay, but that economic activities may also cause some environmental problems, and the money can be used to develop the country, and ironically at the expense of the environment. Environmental management. Now we are going to discuss what is environmental management and how we can manage our natural resources, and how we can manage our environmental condition. Okay, so the environmental management is about protecting and caring for the environment. Okay, our legacy means sometimes or something transmitted or by received from one ancestor or predecessor or from the past. The whole world is in the our hand, and the outcome and existence of life will be determined by our action. So this is your opportunity to make the earth a better place. Are we up to the challenges, and what legacy will be passed on to our generation, our future generation, or our children's in the near future? Okay. So environmental management refers to the use of different natural resources at a level which does not go beyond the sustainable level. Okay, and the environmental management practices ensures that our future generation are able to survive in a world where the physical environment is not struggling to accommodate our wants and the need. Okay, and it also involves the careful monitoring and management of waste discharges, different kinds of waste disposals, so that it does not result in the destruction of the environment. Four approaches are very important for environmental management. So I'm going to discuss these four approaches one by one. Sustainable development is, this word is all very common. You must have heard this word many times. The sustainable development. Okay, so what is sustainable development? How you can define the sustainable development? So sustainable development is a kind of development that meet the need and requirements or the people without compromising the ability of future generations. For an example, the ecotourism projects in the Amazon basin, Brazil. Okay, so if we are working on some developmental activities, if we are constructing something, of if we are going to develop an area, so that meet the need of the present people, that meet the need of the current population without compromising the ability for the future generation. We need to extract, or we need to use the natural resources in such a way that it may be available for the future generation, so that they can use it for their use. So this is about the sustainable development. We have to use natural resources for the development in the current time, and also we should also not compromise the ability of future generation. We have to work in such a way that the natural resources will be left for the future generation, so that they can use for their need in the upcoming future. Okay, so this is the basic definition of sustainable development. And all the environmental management practices, all the natural resource management practices are basically is a kind of sustainable development. The natural resources or the environmental degradation can be reduced, natural resources can be preserved, can be sustained in with the help of sustainable development practices. So sustainable development is an important term when we talk about environmental management or natural resource management. Okay, stewardship means it is an attitude that recognizes that we do not own earth but are responsible for looking after it. From the use of fish resources to how schools and offices are organized and run, governments or international watchdogs organizations are responsible for this. Okay, so the environmental conservation, the conservation of natural resources, or the conservation of natural surface of the earth involves the careful use and management of the earth resources, thereby protecting it from the destructive influences that may be because of resource conservation, for resource conservation, we need to use 3 R's, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. These 3 R's is very important for the conservation practices, for the conservation of the natural resources. Reduce, reuse, and recycle. We have to reduce the use of natural resources, then we have to use it many times, that is reuse the natural resources how much possible, we have to use it again. And recycling is very important for the conservation of the natural resources. Demand reduction, we should also reduce the demand for the wood products, that may decrease the deforestation rate. We can reduce the demand for things that are powered by fossil fuels, and we should also work for the alternative resources, alternative source of the energy, such as nuclear power energy for the need of the energy. Okay, we should develop some alternative resources of the energy that can be uh, used to reduce the use of fossil fuel. If we are using less fossil fuel, then it will have the less impact on the environment in terms of carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. Nature conservation, at a global level, the international organizations such as United Nations Environmental Program, UNEP, and the Worldwide Fund for the Nature are actively involved in saving the environment. So there may be strict conservation rules and regulations should be implemented to protect the plant and the animal species. For an example, Taman Nagara National Park. Okay, so nature conservation is an important part of the conservation of the earth, or you can say that government should implement the strict conservation rules to protect the plant and the animal species that can be used to save the that can be used to survive the habitat, natural habitat and ecosystem of the earth. Okay, now moving to the next slide. Conservation is also is the conservation is about the managing the environment. That is spore green plant, SGP. Okay, SGP is a balancing the conservation with development. SGP was introduced in 1992. That is used to maintain the high standards of the living while developing an environmentally conscious population. Okay, so government set aside 5% of the land area to be preserved as nature reserve, and SGP, that is spore green plan, it's a process of the conservation of environment. It's a conservation strategy that is known as SGP. SGP provides some policies, the rules and regulations for waste management that will be used, that will be applied to minimize the waste production through the public education to promote the recycling. SGP is continuously being reviewed time by time, and first time it was introduced in 1992. That was introduced to maintain the high standards of the living while developing an environmentally conscious population. Okay, so what is the need of the conservation? How to conserve, and what are the need and requirement for the conservation of natural resources? As we know that Earth is our only home, and so that it is important that we protect and care for it. The condition of the Earth that the next generation will inherit dependent on how we care for it today. To do so, environmental conservation needs to be practiced. Efforts have been made to conserve, and for the conservation of the earth, for the conservation of earth resources, we should focus on the use of 3 R's, that is reduce, reuse, and recycle. This is very important. We have to work on the use of 3 R's to conserve the natural resources, to conserve the earth, so that we can protect it for the future generation. Okay, so now moving to the next slide. So this is a case study. This is a case study of Singapore that was done for the environmental conservation. And Singapore has earned the distinction of being a clean and green city of the world. And they have successfully combined the beauty of the nature with urban landscape. Okay, and it is the result of the careful environmental conservation. So this case study is selected because of the successful implementation of the environmental conservation practices in the Singapore. They combined the beauty of the nature along with the urbanized landscape or some urban development. Okay, and it is also considered as the clean and green city, one of the clean and green city of the world. And this is possible, this can be done because of the careful environmental conservation. Okay, so moving to next slide. First, what is their need for Singapore to conserve the environment? Yes, definitely, because before this environmental conservation, there is a lack of natural resources. So Singapore has very few natural resources, and none of them are in the abundance. Okay, for that they need to buy whatever they need from other countries. They need to buy all the things from other countries. So rising population level is also a problem, so that we need to work on the environmental conservation. Singapore has a growing population and numerous expanding businesses and industries. They have contributed to an increase in the waste production and demand for the energy. So these have resulted in a rise in the pollution level. Okay, there is a rising pollution level. There was a rising pollution level in the Singapore because of the rapid industrialization, because of the expanding businesses, and because of the rapid industrialization, because of the industries, because of different business offices, corporate offices, they have contributed to increase in the waste production and demand for energy. And also because of this, they have increased the pollution level in that city, in that area. That's why there is a need of the conservation of environment for Singapore. Okay, there is also need to preserve the natural heritage. Singapore's natural heritage includes tropical rainforest and mangrove forests that contain a wide variety of plants and animal life. Okay, in the midst of the developing or the economy, in the during developing of the during the development of economy, they must bear in the mind the protection and preservation of these areas. So there is need to preserve the natural heritage, because the natural heritages can be preserved in nature that can be reserved, such as the Sungai Buloh Nature Park, which is home to at least 126 species of the world. Okay. In support of the environment international plan for environmental conservation, which is a responsible nation, as we are actively involved in the international plan to conserve the environment. The Singapore Green Plan for conserving the environment, for the environmental conservation strategies. The Singapore Green Plan (SGP) is implemented, is invented. It's a plan that is used for helping the Singapore become a city with high standards of the public health, and which is pleasant to live, and where the population cares for the environment. So presented at the 1992 the Earth Summit in Rio de Janeiro. This Singapore Green Plan was started at 1992 in an Earth Summit that was held in the Rio de Janeiro. At that summit, more than 100 countries committed themselves to ensure the minimal damage to the environment in the process of developing their countries. So this is the main idea, main theme behind the sustainable development. We have to ensure the minimum damage, we have to ensure the minimum utilization of the environment in the process of the development practices, in the process of the development of the city or the country. Okay, so this is the main idea behind the sustainable development. Okay, so there are various action programs was implemented in SGP. First one is the environmental education. Environmental education is very important. People should be educated, in case of people should be educated about the environmental protection, environmental degradation. It involves educating the public about the environmental issues, environmental problems. For an example, students are made aware through the subjects such as geography, civil engineering, and moral education in schools. They are also encouraged to participate in activities to save the water and energy. And it is having exhibitions and organizing the annual Clean and Green Week to encourage the public to play an active role in the environmental protection. So environmental education is a important part of the SGP, and we have to start with the education of the environment. We have to start with educating the public about the environmental issues and environmental challenges, and how we can preserve our environment and how we can conserve the environmental resources. Okay. And environmental education is also having some informing the public about the environmental friendly products and encourage them to manufacture the products that is environmental friendly, and having the green label scheme. Resource conservation, it is about concerning the reduction in the use of energy, and that can be done through the use of rewards and penalties, and also aims to reduce the amount of land use for waste disposal. Okay. Clean technologies. The clean technologies aims to reduce the air pollution through the use of cleaner fuels such as natural gas that can be used to generate the electricity, and it is making more efficient use of our transport system and promoting the cleaner industries. And cleaner technologies also aims to pollution caused by the energy use and encourages the use of the cleaner modes of the transport such as the MRT and the bicycles. So clean technologies is also a part of Singapore Green Plan, and that they aims to promote the use of cleaner fuels. They aims to promote the use of bicycles and public transport that can be used to reduce the pollution level in that area. And we have to use the energy in such a way that it is not harming the environment by releasing some toxic gases like carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide. So this is very important in green plan, that is cleaner technology, or we have to focus on the clean technologies. Environmental technology. The purpose of environmental technology is to develop Singapore into a center for the environmental technology. It hopes to share the Singapore's knowledge, the skills and experience in achieving a clean and the green city with neighboring countries. And this environmental technology also aims to increase the knowledge and the skills in taking care of the environment by encouraging some foreign environmental related companies to set up the offices here. They invite foreign companies, they invite different investors, different factories to set up their offices in there with the environmental friendly activities, so that their environment will be clean, their environment will be conserved at a with the development of that area, with the development of that city. Okay. Nature conservation, that provides for 55% of the total land area in the Singapore that should be set aside for the nature reserves. These reserves allow us to enjoy the nature and provide us with a form of recreation. Okay. So also this Singapore green plan also includes the nature conservation, and they provides for 5% of the total land area in the Singapore that is considered as the nature reserve. Okay. uh, Noise management is also important in sustaining or in conserving the environment. The increased number of vehicles and the expanding industries are two factors contributing to noise level in the Singapore, and noise levels are currently tolerable. So to control the noise level, guidelines are set up on the level of the noise permissible, and there are also recommendations for the use of quitter materials such as noise absorbing materials for building and the roads. So they are started using the construction of the building with the materials they can absorb the noise, they can absorb the different kinds of noises, different kinds of sounds, and they also used to construct the roads with that material so that they can absorb the noise. Okay. So this is an important thing which Singapore did for their conservation planning, the noise management. Okay. As the population is increasing, so definitely there will be the increased number of vehicles. So to avoid the over noise in that city, in that area, they have to work on the noise management and use they have to use the materials that can absorb the noises and that can reduce the noise level in that area. Okay, so this is the acknowledgement which I have used for the preparation of this lecture. Thank you very much for today's class, and we will meet again in the next class with the next lecture. Thank you very much.